My girlfriend's family hated me so much, they turned our wedding into a trap. I always thought love was enough. That if two people truly cared about each other, everything else would eventually fall into place. Family, finances, future. Love would conquer all, right? But that belief shattered the day I realized that my girlfriend's family never actually accepted me. In fact, they were playing me all along. It started 3 years ago when I met Alyssa. We both worked at a small marketing firm downtown. She in graphic design, me in analytics. She had this kind of quiet brilliance, the kind that didn't scream for attention but drew people in like gravity. We became friends fast. Then something more. Dating her felt like a dream. We laughed at the same dumb Netflix shows, finished each other's sentences, and planned weekend getaways like we were already married. The deeper we got, the more I fell. And for a while, I believed she felt the same. Alyssa had told me up front, my family's a bit particular, but I wasn't prepared for what that actually meant. The first time I met them, it felt like walking into an audition I wasn't invited to. Her father, Philip, gave me a handshake that squeezed just a little too tight. Her mother, Lorraine, smiled, but with that same smile people give when they say, "Oh, you tried." Still, I tried. I brought wine I couldn't afford, memorized her brother's favorite football stats, laughed at her aunt's weird jokes. I wanted to be liked, not just for Alyssa's sake, but because I thought we were becoming a family. Over time, things seemed to thaw. Lorraine started inviting me to family brunches. Philip would ask me about my job. I began to believe I'd won them over. So when I proposed to Alyssa during our trip to Lake Como, just the two of us, sunset on the water, I felt like I had everyone's blessing. She said yes, tears in her eyes, arms around my neck. It was the happiest moment of my life. But happiness, I would learn, can be weaponized. In the months leading up to our wedding, Alyssa's family took full control of the planning. They said they wanted to relieve stress from us, but looking back, it was about control. Philip offered to pay for the venue, an estate his company had exclusive access to. Lorraine handled the guest list. Alyssa kept saying, "They're just trying to help." And I believed her. But something changed in her. She became more distant, more secretive. I'd find her whispering with her mother late at night. She'd get defensive if I asked about decisions, like the seating chart or why my college friends were suddenly uninvited due to budget. One night, I caught her crying in the bathroom. When I asked why, she just shook her head and said, "It's nothing, just nerves." But deep down, I knew something was off. Then, a week before the wedding, Alyssa's ex, Jacob, showed up. At first, I thought it was a coincidence. He approached me at a bar near our apartment, pretending it was some random encounter. Said he was in town visiting family. But then he dropped this. "So, you're marrying into that family. Good luck, man." He walked away before I could respond. But those words stayed with me, clawing at the back of my mind. Still, I convinced myself I was just overthinking. Maybe Jacob was bitter. Maybe he was jealous. I mean, who wouldn't be? But on the night before the wedding, everything unraveled. Lorraine insisted we follow the family tradition of spending the night before apart. I stayed at a hotel near the venue. My groomsmen tried to keep things light. Drinks, dumb games, classic best man speeches. But I couldn't shake the sense of something closing in around me. Then around 2 a.m., I got a call from Alyssa's cousin, Claire. We weren't close, but she had always been kind to me, sometimes even too honest. Her voice trembled. "I can't let this happen," she said. I sat up, fully alert. "What do you mean?" "Tomorrow, the wedding. You need to know it's not what you think it is." "What are you talking about?" There was a long pause. Then she whispered, "They've been lying to you, Daniel. All of them. Even Alyssa." I stared at my phone, heart hammering. "What do you mean Alyssa's been lying to me?" I asked Claire, trying to keep my voice steady, though panic surged under my skin like wildfire. She hesitated. "I shouldn't be saying this. If they find out I called you." "Claire, please," I interrupted. "You can't say something like that and then back out. What's going on?" She took a shaky breath. "This whole wedding, it's not about love, Daniel. It's about business, about status, about control. Her parents never liked you. They think you're beneath them. But instead of breaking you two up when you got engaged, they decided to mold you." "Mold me?" I echoed, confused and angry. "Yes, make you more acceptable. Let you in just enough to keep you comfortable. So when things fall apart, and they will, you'll be the one everyone blames." I felt like I was choking. "Are you saying Alyssa's in on this?" Claire's voice dropped to a whisper. At first, I don't think she was. But Philip, he's manipulative. He convinced her she needed to marry someone who could elevate the family. He tried to get her back with Jacob last year. That didn't work. So they decided you'd do. For now. For now. I repeated, the words tasting like rust. Claire went quiet again. I can't say more. But if you go through with this wedding, you're walking into a trap. Click. The line went dead. I sat in the hotel bed, staring at the screen like it might give me answers. My mouth was dry. My palms clammy. My mind raced in every direction. Claire always seemed like the odd one in Alyssa's family, more grounded, less fake. But could she be lying? Trying to sabotage the wedding out of jealousy or spite? I didn't want to believe her. I couldn't believe her. So I did what anyone would do in my position. I drove to Alyssa's family's estate, the wedding venue. It was almost 3 a.m. by the time I got there. I parked away from the main entrance and crept around the side like a criminal. I told myself I was just going to find Alyssa, talk, clear my head. What I found instead shattered everything. There was a room near the garden entrance where they were keeping some of the decorations and vendor materials. The lights were still on. Through the cracked window, I saw Philip and Jacob. They were laughing. I ducked lower, heart thudding so loud I could barely hear. Just had to let him think he was one of us, Philip was saying, pouring scotch into 2 tumblers. Let him bask in the fantasy. Then we'll pull the rug out and make him beg to leave. Jacob snorted. I still can't believe Alyssa agreed to this. She was never the type to play these games. Philip's smile tightened. She'll understand when it's all said and done. She needed to be reminded of who she is and who she owes her future to. Once this wedding falls apart, Jacob, she'll see you were the right choice all along. My stomach twisted. I stepped back too fast, knocking over a garden lantern. Shit. I ran. I didn't stop until I was back at my hotel, panting, drenched in sweat, trying not to vomit. They planned it. All of it. They used me. Trained me like a performing dog so they could destroy me in front of a crowd. Ruin my reputation. Break me down to prove a point. And Alyssa had let them. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. By morning, my rage had settled into something colder. Focused. I wasn't going to walk away quietly. If they wanted a show, I was going to give them one. The sun rose like a spotlight on a stage I didn't want to be on. The morning of the wedding felt surreal. I stared into the hotel mirror, barely recognizing the man in the reflection. Tux pressed, tie sharp, eyes dead. There was a hollowness in my chest that no deep breath could fix. My best man, Kevin, knocked and walked in, clearly hungover but still buzzing from the excitement of the day. Dude, you ready to make the biggest mistake of your life? He joked. I gave him a tight smile. You have no idea. He laughed and clapped me on the back. Seriously though, man. You and Alyssa? Power couple. Her family's loaded. You've got the brains. You two are going to take over the world. I just nodded, letting him ramble. My thoughts were elsewhere, replaying every word from Claire, every smirk from Philip, every quiet moment Alyssa had dodged the truth. But I had a plan now. And to pull it off, I needed to play the role of the unsuspecting groom one last time. The estate was dressed like a royal gala. White roses arched over the entrance. String quartet playing something classical. Guests in pastel linens and luxury suits. Cameras flashing. Champagne flutes already half empty. The perfect facade. I walked through it like a man at his own funeral. When I reached the groom's suite, I texted Claire. Me. Can we talk before the ceremony? Claire. Meet me by the stables in 15. 15 minutes later, I slipped out and found her pacing behind the far barn, hair pulled back, a tension in her shoulders that hadn't been there before. I thought you might run, she said softly. I almost did, I admitted. But I want them to see me burn. Claire looked up sharply. What are you going to do? I showed her my phone. I'd recorded everything from the night before. The conversation between Philip and Jacob. Crystal clear. I'd already made backups. Uploaded them to cloud storage. Sent one to myself. Another to Kevin, with instructions if anything happened. I need one thing from you, I told her. Proof that Alyssa was in on it. Claire looked pained. She didn't start it, Daniel. Her parents cornered her. They used guilt. History. She tried to fight it at first. Did she stop fighting? Claire hesitated, then slowly pulled a small envelope from her clutch. This is a letter. She wrote it to Jacob a month ago. She never sent it. I found it in my mom's desk. Read it for yourself. I opened it. Jacob, I know what we're doing is cruel, and I hate myself for going along with it. But I can't fight them anymore. You don't know what it's like being under their thumb. They've made it clear that if I don't do this, they'll cut me off completely. I'll lose everything. My job, my apartment, my life as I know it. Daniel's a good man, better than most. But he was never supposed to be forever. He was comfort, safety. Now he's collateral. After the wedding, I'll make sure he walks away. Broken, but quiet. He won't cause trouble. He's too proud for that. And then we can finally be together. Every sentence was another nail in the coffin of the woman I thought I loved. I folded the letter and slid it into my inside pocket. That's all I need, I said. Claire's eyes searched mine. Are you going to destroy her? I shook my head. No, I'm going to free her and make sure they all feel what it's like to lose everything they built on a lie. And then I walked back to the main house. The ceremony was in less than an hour. They were all going to get the wedding they wanted, but not the ending they planned. The ceremony began at precisely 4 p.m., as scheduled. Everything was picture perfect. Guests murmured in admiration as the classical quartet swelled with soft violin. Rows of white chairs lined the garden courtyard, trimmed in ivory ribbons. Alyssa's father stood at the end of the aisle, flanked by a smug grin and a Rolex that caught the sun just so. Her mother was dabbing her eyes with a lace handkerchief, whispering theatrically to anyone who'd listen. And me? I was the groom in the designer suit. Calm. Still. Playing my part. Alyssa entered, and for a moment, I forgot everything. She was stunning. She wore a fitted ivory gown, backless with elegant lace sleeves. Her hair was pinned up in soft curls, a diamond necklace I'd given her just months ago shining against her collarbone. Her smile trembled slightly as she walked down the aisle. Was it nerves? Or guilt? I smiled back, hiding a storm behind my eyes. Kevin, standing beside me, nudged my elbow and whispered, "Bro, she looks like a goddess." She reached me and took my hand. Her fingers were cold. The officiant began. "Dearly beloved." I barely heard the words. My pulse was loud in my ears. I caught Philip glancing at Jacob across the front row. Jacob didn't smile. He looked expectant, arrogant. They were all waiting for the moment I'd fall apart. They had no idea. The vows came. Alyssa went first. She spoke beautifully, convincingly. "Daniel, from the moment we met, I knew my world would never be the same." I didn't even flinch. Then it was my turn. I took a breath and stepped closer, taking both of her hands. "Alyssa," I began, voice calm, measured. "When I first met you, I thought I'd found everything I was missing. A partner, a soulmate, a future." She smiled, eyes glassy. "But what I didn't know," I continued, "was that I was stepping into a performance. A long, cruel production." There was a pause. Murmurs started in the audience. Alyssa's smile faltered. "Daniel, I know the truth," I said, louder now, looking directly at her. "About the plan. About Jacob. About your father's arrangement. About the letter you never sent." Gasps. Lorraine stood abruptly. "Stop the ceremony." Philip's jaw clenched. "Security," he barked. But no one moved. Not yet. Because I reached into my pocket and pulled out my phone. And pressed play. The recording of Philip's voice echoed through the outdoor speakers. "Let him bask in the fantasy. Then we'll pull the rug out and make him beg to leave." People turned, shocked. Guests whispering. Phones coming out. A few even stood up. Alyssa's eyes widened in horror. How did you?" I held up the letter. "You may not have sent it, but someone believed I deserved the truth." Her lips parted, trembling. Then I turned to the guests. "I apologize for the disruption, but I thought you all deserved to know what kind of people you've come to celebrate. This wasn't a wedding. It was a trap. A public betrayal disguised as love." Lorraine screamed something, but it was drowned out by the whispers, the gasps, the chaos. Jacob tried to stand, but Kevin got to him first, grabbing him by the collar and shoving him back into his seat. And then, calmly, I looked at Alyssa one last time. "You said I was comfort, safety, collateral," I said quietly. "But today, I am something else entirely." She shook her head, tears streaming now. "Daniel, please." I leaned in and whispered, just loud enough for her to hear. "This is the part where I walk away." And I did. I left her standing at the altar. Left them all gasping. Left the whole rotten family holding the weight of their lies in front of 200 stunned guests. But it wasn't over. Not yet. I walked out of that estate and didn't look back. Not when the murmurs turned into shouts. Not when Philip's voice bellowed across the garden. demanding someone stop me. Not even when Alyssa collapsed into sobs behind me, her veil slipping off like a fallen curtain at the end of a play. The entire performance was over. And the illusion? Burned to ash. Kevin caught up to me halfway down the drive. Dude, what the hell just happened? He said, breathless, both horrified and impressed. I told the truth, I said simply. And I'm not done. We got into the car, mine, thankfully parked on a public street outside the estate gates. As we pulled away, the crowd still buzzing behind us, I checked my phone. The video of the altar confrontation, recorded by one of Alyssa's cousins, had already been uploaded and was gaining views fast. I hadn't planned on it going viral. But people love scandal, especially when it involves wealth, betrayal, and a groom saying, "I don't," in the most cinematic way possible. By evening, the video had been reposted dozens of times. TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, even Reddit had a thread dedicated to groom exposes rich family mid-wedding. I didn't care about the fame. What mattered was that their plan to humiliate me had flipped. I wasn't the broken man they expected to discard. I was the storm they didn't see coming. Philip called me 3 times that night. I didn't answer. Lorraine sent a 3-paragraph text calling me unstable, ungrateful, and vindictive. I didn't respond. But Alyssa, she texted something different. Alyssa, you didn't have to do it like that. Me. And you didn't have to do it at all. Then she sent. Alyssa, I was scared. I didn't know how to choose between them and you. Me. You did choose. You just hoped I'd never find out. Silence. I stared at the thread for a long time, then deleted her number. Kevin stayed with me that night, just to keep me grounded. We ordered pizza and drank beers while the world debated whether I was a hero or a villain. I can't believe you nuked the whole thing like that, Kevin muttered, scrolling through comments. Was I wrong? He looked up. No, you were brave as hell. But bravery has a cost. The next few days were a blur. Some people, mostly my co-workers and friends, reached out with support, saying they were proud of me, even inspired. Others, not so kind. I lost a few clients at work. Alyssa's family influence ran deep in our industry. Subtle blacklisting, missed calls. We've decided to go another direction. That kind of thing. I knew it would happen, and I didn't care, because I had a bigger move to make. A week after the wedding that wasn't, I published a full account of the story. No drama, no theatrics, just facts. I included the audio recording, a scanned copy of Alyssa's letter, dates, times, receipts. I posted it anonymously to a major expose blog. It blew up. Suddenly, Philip's company was facing questions about ethics, nepotism, and manipulation. Old employees came out of the woodwork with their own stories. Investors got spooked. A quiet scandal brewed in the background while I watched from afar. Lorraine, once the queen of charity galas and country club gossip, found herself uninvited from her inner circle. Jacob got dumped by Alyssa publicly once the heat turned on him. And Alyssa? She vanished. Quit her job. Deleted social media. Moved back in with her parents for a while. Part of me wanted to feel bad. But then I remembered the letter. I wasn't their victim anymore. I was the beginning of their unraveling. 3 weeks after the bomb dropped, I received a certified letter in the mail. It was from Alyssa. Handwritten. No return address. Daniel, I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even expect this letter to reach you. But if it does, I hope you'll read it. I was never proud of what I did. I was scared. My family built a cage around me so slowly, I didn't realize I was locked inside until it was too late. When we met, you were the first person who ever made me feel like I had a choice. But Philip, my father, he made it clear that choosing you would mean giving up everything I'd ever known. My job, my apartment, even my health insurance. I folded. I became what they wanted, a pawn. A weak, polished doll in a white dress. I never stopped loving you, Daniel. I need you to know that. Even when I lied. Even when I betrayed you. The truth is, I thought you'd never find out. I thought I could shield you from it. That after the wedding, I could quietly end it. Let you go without ruining you. I didn't realize how wrong I was until I saw your face at the altar. Until I heard my father's voice on those speakers. You deserve better. From the beginning. Goodbye. Alyssa. I read it once. Then again. And then I set it down. No tears came. No anger. Just a quiet, empty kind of sadness. The kind that follows the death of something you once loved. I didn't reply. She had said goodbye. And so would I. In the months that followed, my life changed. Not overnight. But piece by piece. Some people still saw me as the wedding guy, the viral sensation. But the noise eventually died down. People moved on. And so did I. I changed jobs, left the firm we both worked at, started freelance consulting on my own terms, built something that didn't rely on anyone's name but mine. Kevin and I stayed close. If anything, the whole experience made our friendship unshakable. He once said, "You know, for a guy who got publicly betrayed, you came out of it like a damn phoenix." Maybe he was right. One night, about 6 months later, I ran into Claire again. She was at a tech event I attended. Same kind eyes, same quiet strength. We grabbed coffee the next day, talked about everything. Alyssa, the wedding, her parents, the fallout. "Do you regret it?" she asked me, stirring her cappuccino. "No," I said. "I regret not seeing it sooner. But not what I did." She nodded. "They've lost a lot. The company's bleeding money. Alyssa cut ties with them entirely." That surprised me. "Really?" Claire smiled faintly. She finally got tired of playing their game. I let the silence hang between us for a moment. "Do you think she ever really loved me?" Claire's answer was soft. "Yes, but not enough. And not in the way you deserved." We sat in that truth for a while. And then, something unexpected happened. We started seeing each other. Slowly, cautiously. There was no spark of fairy tale love. No sweeping passion. Just honesty, respect, laughter. It felt clean, real. Like rebuilding something from the ashes of a lie and watching it finally stand. Claire and I weren't some rebound story. If anything, we tiptoed around the idea of us for months before either of us admitted there was something there. Maybe it was because we'd both seen too much of the ugly side of people, especially the ones closest to us. Trust doesn't come easy after betrayal, but there's something beautiful about slow healing, about letting someone see the bruises and not flinching, about not needing to perform. With Claire, I didn't have to pretend. She didn't see me as a project to be shaped or a trophy to be paraded. She saw me, flaws, fears, and all. And I saw her, not just as the brave cousin who tried to warn me, but as someone who had lived in the same gilded cage Alyssa had, yet chosen differently. Our first kiss happened after a long walk along the pier. No grand speeches, no swelling music, just her fingers brushing mine as we stared at the water. And suddenly, it just made sense. "I don't want to be afraid anymore," she whispered afterward. "Me neither." We built something from that quiet moment. Not overnight, not without mistakes, but with intention. People judged us. Of course they did. Some thought I was being petty, dating the cousin of the woman who'd betrayed me. Others accused Claire of swooping in while Alyssa fell. But we didn't care. Because for the first time in years, I wasn't looking over my shoulder, waiting for someone to pull the rug out from under me. We took weekend trips without worrying about curated photos. We met each other's friends without scripts. We had arguments, but honest ones, not ones drenched in manipulation or control. And I started to feel something I hadn't in a long time. Peace. One day, nearly a year after the wedding, I received a package. No sender listed. Inside was a single item. A photograph. It was a candid shot of Alyssa, sitting at a cafe in Paris, hair longer, face thinner, eyes far away. Scrawled on the back were 5 words. "I hope you're truly happy." No signature. No note. Just that. I stared at it for a while, unsure what I was supposed to feel. Pity? Closure? Gratitude? Maybe all of the above. I tucked the photo into a drawer and left it there. The past had done enough damage. I wasn't going to let it steal my future too. Claire and I moved in together after a year and a half. Nothing flashy. A small apartment in the city with mismatched furniture and a creaky floorboard near the kitchen. But it was ours. And for once, love wasn't a performance. It was the quiet sound of 2 people choosing each other, over and over again. Even on the hard days. Especially on the hard days. One rainy afternoon, as I was organizing a box of old paperwork, I stumbled upon something I hadn't seen in over a year. Alyssa's letter. The one she wrote to Jacob but never sent. The one Claire had given me before I walked into what should have been my wedding. My hand hovered over it, unsure whether to toss it or read it again. Eventually, I opened it. The ink had faded slightly. The paper smelled faintly of her perfume. But the words still stung like fresh wounds. He was never supposed to be forever. I sat there, silent, as rain pattered against the windows. Claire was at the grocery store. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. And for a fleeting moment, I felt that old, familiar ache in my chest. Not because I missed Alyssa, but because I missed the man I had been before her family tore me apart. The man who believed in unconditional love, in trust without hesitation, and forever. That man died the day I walked away from the altar. But maybe, just maybe, I had built something stronger in his place. Not blind faith, not naive optimism, but clarity. I folded the letter slowly, put it in an envelope, and wrote something across the front in black ink. A reminder of how far I've come. Then I sealed it shut and locked it in a drawer. Not out of bitterness, but as proof. Proof that the worst day of my life didn't break me, it remade me. Claire came home an hour later, soaked from the rain and carrying bags of vegetables and some impulsive bakery treats she couldn't resist. Guess who found croissants the size of my head? She grinned. I kissed her forehead. Remind me to build you a shrine. We made dinner together. Nothing fancy, just roasted veggies, pasta, and laughter. Afterward, as we sat on the couch watching some terrible reality show, I turned to her and said, "You know, if you had told me 2 years ago I'd be this happy, this grounded, I would have laughed in your face." Claire smiled, pulling a blanket over both of us. Life has a messed up way of giving you what you need, even if it rips everything else apart first. I nodded, and I'm glad it did. There were still scars. I wasn't the kind of person who believed in fairy tales anymore, but I did believe in healing, and in love that didn't come with conditions, contracts, or family manipulation. The kind of love that stays when no one's watching. A few months later, I was invited to speak at a tech conference. During the Q&A portion, someone asked, "What's the biggest challenge you've faced outside of work, and how did you overcome it?" The room went quiet, and I smiled. "I got left at the altar," I said. There was laughter, nervous glances. Then I continued, "But I left them first, because I learned that being alone with your dignity is better than being surrounded by people who only clap when you perform." And for the first time, I saw heads nodding, not in amusement, but in understanding. The scars may stay, but so does the wisdom. The years after the fallout brought a strange calm. I rebuilt my life piece by piece, like a mosaic made from broken glass, sharp edges, but beautiful when seen from the right angle. Alyssa's family slowly faded from my world, their empire crumbling as whispers turned to headlines, and old allies slipped away. Philip's company filed for bankruptcy amid investigations into financial misconduct, nepotism, and multiple lawsuits. His reputation, once untouchable, became a cautionary tale. Lorraine retreated into the shadows, no longer the social queen she once was. Jacob? Rumor had it he left the country, trying to escape the fallout he helped engineer. As for Alyssa, she remained a ghost in my life, a painful chapter one closed but never erased. Meanwhile, Claire and I built something quietly strong. We moved from that tiny apartment to a loft downtown, where we hosted dinner parties filled with laughter, friends, and genuine connection. Our love wasn't perfect, no love is, but it was real. One evening, years later, I found myself looking at an old photo album we'd put together, filled with memories of trips, late-night talks, and ordinary days made extraordinary. Claire flipped the page and smiled. "Remember this? Our first hike. You kept complaining about the bugs." I laughed. "You mean the swarm that nearly carried me off?" She nudged me playfully. "We've come a long way." I nodded. "From a wedding disaster to this?" I never thought I'd say it, but I'm grateful. For what? For the storm that forced me to find my own light. She leaned into me, and I'm glad I got to be part of that light. One day, out of the blue, I received an invitation. A charity gala hosted by a nonprofit organization focused on helping victims of emotional abuse and family manipulation. On the invite was a familiar name, Alyssa. Curious and cautious, I went. The event was elegant, but the atmosphere was different. Less show, more substance. When I arrived, I spotted her across the room. She looked older, humbled. Not the woman who'd stood beside me at the altar that day, but someone who had survived her own battles. We locked eyes for a moment. No words passed between us, only understanding. She gave me a small nod before turning away. No apologies, no explanations, just acceptance. Sometimes, that's all closure needs. I left the gala feeling lighter than I had in years. Life had thrown its worst at me, and I'd chosen to stand tall. Because in the end, the greatest revenge isn't breaking the ones who hurt you. It's building a life so full, so honest, and so free that their darkness can never touch it again. Months passed since that gala. Life settled into a rhythm that felt genuine, peaceful, and fiercely mine. Claire and I continued growing together, supporting each other's dreams and facing challenges hand in hand. We launched a small startup focused on ethical marketing, a direct reaction to the lies and manipulation I'd endured. It was our way of rewriting the narrative, not just for us, but for others who felt trapped in toxic cycles. One crisp autumn morning, I found myself walking past a small cafe in the city center. The barista handed me my usual coffee with a smile. As I turned, I caught sight of a familiar figure sitting quietly at a corner table, Alyssa. She was alone, eyes fixed on her laptop, a soft shadow of the person she'd once been. Our eyes met for a moment. I nodded, a silent gesture of recognition and farewell. I realized then that some stories don't end with dramatic confrontations or epic revenge. Sometimes, the most powerful endings are the quiet ones, where forgiveness, in whatever form it takes, frees both the betrayed and the betrayer. I walked away from the cafe feeling lighter, as if a heavy chapter had closed. The past had tried to define me, to cage me in pain and betrayal. But I chose something different. I chose to rise, to rebuild, to love again on my own terms. And in that choice, I found freedom.